Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. We were having some technical issues a second ago. So put in the chat if you can or can't hear me. Hopefully you can. A year ago today, I shared my Scientology story publicly for the first time ever. Not only had I never spoken about Scientology publicly, it was the first time I told my story from beginning to end to anyone. Little did I know that would be the catalyst for so much more. In the last 12 months, I've started a channel on YouTube. I've organized a protest. I've made so many new friends with amazing connections around the world. And now I've made the decision to dedicate my life to raising awareness of what's going on in Scientology, how it affects people, and most importantly, helping people get out. It's been a whirlwind of a year, and I can't wait to see what the next year has in store for me. But I wanted to take a minute firstly to say thank you to those of you who have chosen to support me on this journey of recovery and those of you who have helped me along the way. So I thought it would be great to spend a little time on this live stream doing a bit of reflection over the last year. Have you guys ask me questions? You know, this is a Q&A, so please get your questions in. Let's talk about what the last year has been like for me in my recovery and the growth of the channel and what I've been up to and so on. So please ask me questions and let's have a little conversation. Let's look at how much things have changed over the last year. So I see there's lots of you in the chat already. Sharona Serowin, thank you. Congrats on your year of speaking out. Wishing you many more years to follow. Thank you very much. Freya Mind, thank you for the super sticker. That's very kind of you. There are so many comments. Wow. So I married an ex-Scientologist. Hey, Andrea, how are you doing? Happy anniversary from the suppressive puppy and me, Apostate Alex. My husband can pass along his well wishes directly since you've stolen him again. And what a great introduction to Jeff, PTS for life. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm sorry, I had some body things on my computer. I had to go do a quick session and get rid of them. And it turns out we're good. So
awesome. I'm glad you managed to sort them out.
Congratulations, Alex.
Thank you. The best ginger power is more ginger power. Exactly.
Right. That's right.
Sweet liberty, whatever you like to celebrate with happy anniversary. Thank you. Thank you for joining me, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. We had a good we went to dog puppy school this evening, and we're teaching Raz some new tricks, and he did really well, and now he's all tired. So this is why you get me right now.
I love it.
Yes, hello to everybody in the chat. Sorry I wasn't there at the opening, but for some reason I couldn't hear anything. So
it's good. You're here now. Even Gabe is here. Hi, Gabe.
Gabe, hello.
How you doing?
We were having a good chat earlier, and we got some fun things happening on the Canada Scientology front. So,
oh my God, that is so exciting! And actually, on that topic, for those of you who don't know, a massive documentary expose came out just the other day in Canada, where some people went undercover in the Quebec Scientology church. And it was huge, and it was all in French, but it's fine. There are English subtitles. And one of the main people in that documentary, Michelle, is actually going to be appearing on my channel tomorrow. We're going to be doing an interview. So we've got that to look forward to. There's a surprise guest here as well that just wanted to pop in. Hey, Catherine, how are you doing?
Where are you?
I think my reception's not my connection's not very good. I'm in a grocery store.
No problem. Thank you for joining.
I just wanted to quickly say hi and say congratulations to Alex, and I'm so glad that we connected, and much more to come.
Thank you, Catherine. I appreciate that. Thank you for popping in. It's so nice to have so many new friends from around the world and meet people that I never would have met. You know, it's crazy, and your support has been really really helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I thought that my days of knowing people all over the world were over once I left the Sea Org, but they're apparently not. So it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I know you're in a grocery store, so I'll let you crack on. But thank you for popping in. When you get home, if we're still live, you're welcome to join in as well. You've got the link, so
Okay.
awesome.
Okay, good.
Thanks,
Okay.
Catherine.
Bye.
Hi, Catherine.
Alrighty. Oh, that was nice. If anyone's watching this that's an SPTV creator who wants to jump in, by the way, just drop me a text. I'll send you the link. You're more than welcome to join. But yeah, what a year. And like, I think it's mad as well that, like Catherine said, meeting people from all over the world, like it's insane at how much support and love there is out there for all of us. And like, I've connected really well with you, Jeff, and you know, you've come over to the UK and we went and did the protest, and like it's mad. It's so nice because Scientology paint this picture that the SPs, this world is like scary and horrible, and we're all nasty people that just want to like get in everyone's way, and it's nothing can be further from the truth. Like, you know,
Just this guy's way.
little space Davy Navy. Yeah, there's some questions here that I'll go through. And Jeff, also, if there's any questions, because you're very new to this whole thing of speaking out on your channel as well, like please fire your questions at me as well. You know, I want this to be a Q&A. Look, Salty Beach Girl Laurie, I'm old enough to be your mum, so I think like a mama. Does your mum worry about you speaking out? That's a really good question. There's actually a couple of questions here about my family and my mum, and it's something I'm going to be delving into in the future. So essentially, my mum has definitely got my back, and we to this day haven't had a conversation about my time in Scientology in any great detail, because I wanted to kind of save that and do a video with her talking about it, because she doesn't even know half of the stuff that happened while I was on staff behind the scenes. And I think it would make a great podcast or interview. But you've met my mum, Jeff. You probably have a better perspective.
Your mom is amazing, especially if you call her Fee and not Fiona. Before I continue, though, can you send Gabe the link?
Yes. Yeah.
So your mom is an amazing musician. She is a wonderful human being. And even though she doesn't know probably even an eighth or less than that of what Scientology does and is doing and has done, and even necessarily specifically how you were treated so unfairly and so brutally during your last days and time in there, she just knows you and she trusts you and she completely has your back. And it is so cool coming from Scientology and then seeing this kind of support, unwavering support happen. It's just really cool, and it's heartening to see, you know, that families can just be family and not worry about all the bullshit that Scientology interjects into their relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you know, we had a conversation while you were here, Jeff, about fair game and coming after me and her and all of that. And as much as she knows what Scientology does and she knows a little bit about fair game, like she made it really clear that she was like, look, I don't care if they come after me. You've got nothing. Like, she supports me in that and is willing to take on the fight, even though she doesn't know enough about what happened to me and what goes on and stuff. So it's great to have that support. Salty Beach Girl here said, Alex, please don't spring too much on her live. It will break her heart. Yes. So the interview that I want to do, it won't be live. I want to pre-record it, and it will be, I'm sure, several hours that will then edit into a shorter video later. But I'm not going to put her on the spot and do it live. It will be recorded. But I think it's important to capture that on camera, because so much of what I'm doing is trying to show how it affects people, right? And you know, it's not going to be an easy conversation, but it's something that I think people will appreciate seeing that you know, play out on camera, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, your mom is just so cool. Like, I don't know, man. She's just a really cool person. She's very nice. She's super thoughtful. You're very lucky to have her. Very
Yeah,
lucky.
absolutely. And she doesn't know as well. Like, I've still got the documents from the time that I was on staff, and there was a whole plan to not convert her to be a Scientologist, but a plan to get her to be okay with me being on staff. And, you know, I've still got the messages that went, you know, text messages and Facebook and stuff between me and people in the church of like how to handle my mum, and how you can see looking back how it turned into a place where it was like very clear that if I didn't get this handled quickly, I would have to disconnect from her. And I will be going over that at some point in these videos and in my book and all this stuff. So it's all stuff to come. You know, I've only just touched the tip of the iceberg. I've been doing this for a year now, but there's so much of my story that I haven't told, and purposefully, because it requires a lot of recovery and thought process in my mind before I'm ready to, you know, share it publicly. So there's so much more that I haven't spoken about and will do in the coming years, you know?
Admit it though, there is another reason why you haven't really attacked everything, is because you've been too busy introducing other people, telling their stories, interfering with local government crap, getting in the way of authorities who are in the pocket of Scientology, interrupting an IES event, stopping David Miscavige from going on stage and sending his lackey out to open up the Qual building. Like, you are absolutely destroying Scientology in the UK and, of course, ultimately worldwide.
Well,
I
thank
honestly
you.
think that you are probably one of the hardest working. I don't want to use the term SBTV creator because I don't think that's necessarily what you're about. I think what you're about is just stopping Scientology from hurting other people. You're so hardworking because I know I've seen you behind the scenes. You've been up when I'm well asleep. You've been up hours and hours and hours working on more stuff, and then making sure that you get up on time so you can take care of me while I'm there.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really awe-inspiring to see how much work that you put into it, even though I think that you do burn yourself out a little bit and you
Yeah,
need to get more sleep.
absolutely.
But it is pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, I think, thank you. Chris is here. Now I'm catching you guys live. Nailing
Hey,
it,
Chris.
Jeff. Alex is a workhouse. Alex the Destroyer. Thanks, Chris. Dude, Chris, if you want to jump in on this, you're more than welcome to join for a little bit. I'll send you the StreamYard link, but also no worries if not. I'll just send it to you now. Yeah, I think look, what you just said is so true. And I think it's so mad to look at. It was exactly a year ago today that I first shared my story on Chris Shelton's channel. And I never in a million years would have thought that I would be here today, you know, with a YouTube channel and organizing a protest and all this stuff. Like, it was the furthest thing in my mind from what I wanted to do. I think my goal in speaking out the first time was just to share my story and, you know, put it out there so that people knew that there were people in the UK and people on staff, not just in the Sea Org, that stuff had happened to. And, you know, I never even thought what would happen next. And so suddenly here we are, got a channel, and I found this like fire in me to help. And it's interesting because if you look at it, when I joined staff, the whole point, the way they got me to do it was saying this will help people, because that's what I want to do with my life, is help people. And that's still true today. And what I find interesting now is that's what I'm doing to do with Scientology. I was helping people with Scientology, and now I'm helping people get out of Scientology. And that's very much my goal, is like, you know, sharing stories, like you said, helping people get set up, and you know, giving them a platform, and protesting and so on. Like, that's what's important to me, is helping people. And I never thought a year ago that I would be doing that. Like, with Scientology, I didn't realize how big it was in my mind, how much of a role it still played in my ways of thinking back then. And over the preceding the following year, it became more and more evident that it was still affecting me. And then it became more and more evident that I had to do something about it. And I have an opportunity here to help people get out, give people a platform. And so, yeah, what you said about spending so much time on it is true. I like dedicate my life to this now. And I never would have thought I would do that. We've actually got someone here as well popping in. Gabrielle, how are you doing?
Hey, ho ho ho.
Hi
Thanks for
guys.
joining.
Hi, Gabe.
I had to join
Nice hat.
because I wanted to congratulate Alex and also thank him because he's the reason why I actually got my own channel going. And yeah, I'm forever grateful, Alex. I'm gonna cry
You're gonna
again.
make
I'm
me
so
cry.
sorry. You did such an incredible job with my interview and letting me tell my story and giving me space to tell it, because it's really, really hard. As you can tell, I'm still emotional about it. But I so appreciate what you've done, especially for me. It's just been amazing.
Well, thank you. I think when I first heard your story, when you first reached out to me, it was the first like edited interview that I did. I spent so much time editing it and making sure it was, and I definitely went a bit overboard. Like the music that I put in, it was definitely like
I
very
loved it.
dramatic, but I would probably do it differently now. But hearing your story, we spoke for I think 5 hours, was the whole recorded interview, and it just inspired me to really spend the time and edit it and make it really impactful, because that was the first time I'd heard someone's story beginning to end, in that great detail. And I was like, I need to do something here beyond just like, uploading a video. Like I wanted to really get the key message across, and that really inspired me as well to continue doing this and spend a lot of time, and put quality in there. And so thank you for giving me that opportunity. And I want to help as many people as I can, and I want to get people on YouTube if they can. If they don't want to, that's fine, but just give them a space to share their stories.
Yeah. And I'm very close to 1,000. So anybody who wants to
How
subscribe,
exciting. Go
I'd
and
love to
subscribe.
do.
Escaping the Cultiverse.
Yeah.
Also, I want to bring in, here he is.
Woo!
Hey guys.
How are you doing? Thank you for
Hey.
joining.
Doing good.
Wow.
Long time no talk.
Yeah, right. No, doing good. I'm feeling a little giddy right now. This is awesome. I didn't know you guys were even going live, and then I pop in, and it's like, whoa, hey, and then I can join in even better. Awesome. And well
you.
done on over 1,000, Gabrielle. That's excellent.
No, I'm this close,
This
Chris.
close.
I'm this
Okay.
close.
So
Okay,
close.
let's make it happen.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And
Well,
Chris,
yeah,
Chris, can I just plug Mr. Chris Shelton for 1 second? Because he was the guy that I started watching, and he was the one that really started to unravel stuff for both me and my husband, who was in for 40 years. So it was huge. Your take on stuff and your deep dives, you and John Atek, man, you got me through a lot.
Oh,
Especially
good.
when I was cleaning and having some real traumatic moments while I'm on the job and trying to keep my shit together. So thank you very, very much.
Very welcome. Very welcome.
Thanks.
and I want to
Yeah.
echo that as well. Thank you, Chris, for giving me the platform to speak out. When I first shared my story a year ago, it was on your channel, and you did such a good job of like giving me the space to just tell it from start to finish. And you asked me all the right questions. We did a recap video on your channel recently, which was nice to kind of recap the year. But I think looking back on it, it was so well done, because I'd never spoken to anybody about my story ever, especially not start to finish. And without your channel, I wouldn't have done that, and I wouldn't be here today. And that inspired me with what I'm doing now. Like I was just saying to Gabrielle about sharing people's stories and giving them a platform. Like, your channel inspired me to do that, of like, letting people speak and tell the story they want to tell, because that helps other people. I was watching your videos for ages, and it took a lot in my mind to get to the place where I was ready to reach out, let alone talk on your channel. But just hearing other people's experiences helped me realize I'm not alone. I'm not the only person that's gone through this. And I related to so many of your guests, and that kind of inspired me to do the same, of like, if I can show that what goes on in Scientology isn't just a Sea Org in LA or Florida, it happens everywhere at every level in every city in which Scientology operates, whether you're a public staff member or Sea Org, the abuse is still there and the stuff still happens. And that's what I'm focusing on now. And I wouldn't have been in that place of like, I wouldn't be in that mindset now if it wasn't for your channel. So thank you, Chris.
Well, y'all are very welcome, and thank you for heaping me with all this praise right now. I didn't come here for this, but this is awesome. Thank you very much. I'm here to praise you, Alex, because I mean, talk about taking, running with this thing, and all I can say right now is mission accomplished. I mean, this is exactly what I've wanted. So, thank you, and you're welcome.
Thank you. I mean, that's the thing, is like inspiring, just speak. Not everyone wants to take on the church, not everyone wants to start a channel, and that's absolutely fine. But for me, like you just said it, taking it and running with it, it's like, for me, I've now made the decision in my mind that this is what I'm focusing on in my life now. Like, this is my number one priority, is not necessarily my channel, and growing the channel and all of this. The only reason I'm doing that is because I want my stories and other people's stories to reach more people, so that it becomes greater known that Scientology is still around, is still doing these things, and also help people get out. This has become the focus of my life, and I've made that decision consciously. And so, yeah, of course I'm going to take it and run with it, but I'm only just getting started. It's only just the beginning for me.
Yes, and it's awesome because you and Jeff also, I mean, Jeff, you two are part of this, but you guys have had some awesome ideas, and I'm just going to say that for somebody who's been doing this for years, it's inspiring. It really is. And I didn't even know necessarily that I was in, that's something I was looking for. But yeah, it's great. It's really great. You guys are doing great work.
We appreciate you so much, Chris. So much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And and I will just echo what these two have been saying as well. You were the first person who broke it down for me as well. So as much as we are inspiring you now, you inspired us then. So
it's all your fault, Chris.
Yeah, it's all your fault. You're a big bad SP, Chris.
Yes, mission accomplished.
Exactly.
Yeah. But also, like, there's there's so much, like, people have been speaking out about Scientology for so long, right? Like, this is nothing new, right? There are people speaking out against Scientology in the 70s, in the 80s, and like, I think what's different is now there's this thing called YouTube, which is such a great platform for anybody can start a channel, come out and share their story, and do as much or as little activism as they want, right? They can just go on, make one video, and then never be seen again. And just having that opportunity to have a global reach is not something that's happened before for ex-Scientologists, and I think it's a game changer for this activism work, and it'll be interesting to see what happens over the coming years, because there's nothing Scientology can do to stop it, right? Linda here, still waiting on that big pharma check.
Yeah, right.
If there's one thing I'm most disappointed with, or the lie that I am so upset about the most, is the fact that Scientology told me that SPs get paid off by big pharma, and there's checks that, and we get paid to speak out. I'm still waiting for my check. That's the thing I'm most upset about. Scientology lied. Where's my big pharma check?
Exactly.
And on that note, if you guys want to support Alex, in his efforts, make sure you buy him a coffee, because frankly, we do this for the purpose of getting people out of Scientology. We don't have hundreds of thousands of subs or making a ton of money every time we go live. So do make sure you support if you appreciate the work that's being done by Alex. And of course, Gabe and Chris. Gabe's got Chris has an amazing book, and without you guys watching here, we wouldn't be able to do this. And our purpose is to get rid of Scientology. So
exactly. Thank you. Yeah, and like the whole idea of growth of my channel and stuff is not because I want to be a celebrity or influencer. I hate the term influencer. The whole point of growing channels is not for self-service ego stuff. It's because the more subscribers you have, the more people watch your videos, and therefore the more likelihood the more likely it is someone will be helped by hearing that story, right? And that's the purpose of growth of these channels. I think that's the same for all of you guys on here, right? It's not about having 100,000 or 1 million subs or whatever. It's actually, no, that means those people know what's going on, and they can help on the mission of exposing the abuses and putting a stop to it, right?
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. In fact, I mean, it's kind of funny to say this. I feel funny saying this, but you know, 8, 9 years of making videos, doing all this work, trying desperately to reach people, trying to grow a channel, you know, to reach more people. But then it was really only about this last year and a half that it really hit home to me that the work does help people. You know, your guys' work reaches people. I'm sure you get emails, right? You're sure you get calls like I do. And you get enough, and it finally comes home to you. Oh, all this stuff, what I'm intending to do is doing it. Now, if I could just reach more people, I could help more people. And that's the only reason at this point that the numbers are important for me.
Exactly. You know, there's a chat here, Blimey Hermione or Hermione 07. I didn't know Scientology was in the UK until your channel. Thank you. And that's the whole point, is like when I first started speaking out, when I was first on your channel, Chris, a year ago today, one of the things I said in that interview was people don't realize, I don't hear enough stories from people on staff at city level orgs, and especially not in the UK. Like John Atac's been speaking out for years, but there's not really that many UK voices talking about Scientology. So I'm glad that's one example of someone who now knows it's here. And that's why I'm supporting the Commonwealth and Europe and, like, you know, you guys in Canada so much, because it's like the more different voices there are, the more people get the message. This is a global problem. It's not just, you know, this crazy American cult. It's this thing that happens everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Patty,
also,
thank you for the super chat. Yeah, sorry, go on, Chris.
Well, I just wanted to say real fast, and I'm gonna, you know, I think this should be plugged, because Alex, you took on the UK and you made that your mission. You're like, I'm gonna do this in the UK. We're gonna talk about UK stories. You know, you're behind the scenes at St. Hill, that kind of thing, and that's brilliant. It's exactly what we need. And I wanted to put in a plug that you are also right there with Europe, and I hope anybody who's watching from that zone also starts connecting with this, because it's an underrepresented area in terms of X stories and people talking about Scientology in Europe, and yet it's there and it's working real hard. I mean, in Hungary and Austria and various European countries, they're going to town. And there's not enough of us speaking up publicly about that, I think. So, so I think Alex is the conduit to that, and I want to encourage that.
Thanks. And I think one of the things as well is that people look at the numbers. Census data shows there's only like 2,000 Scientologists in the UK. The numbers, there aren't many, but that doesn't mean they don't have great influence and they don't have lots of money, right? If you look at the UK, Scientology brings in like, I think it was, I can't remember if it was 30 or 60 million dollars a year or something like that here in the UK. That's a lot of money for not very many people. And they have a lot of influence. They're taking over East Grinstead Town Council. And that's what's important, is not that there are only a few thousand, it's what they're actually doing and the influence they're having on society. And that's the same for Europe and the Commonwealth and Canada. It's, you know, it's not about how many people are in Scientology, it's the effect that Scientology is having on the wider public. You know, in the UK earlier this year, they won a court case where their buildings were designated places of public worship, which, okay, so what does that mean? Well, what that means is they are eligible for relief, tax relief on some of the business property tax they have to pay here, which means every UK taxpayer is now subsidizing some of their actions and some of their behavior, and that affects every single UK taxpayer, even if there's only 2,000 Scientologists. And that's the point I want to get across, is that their influence and their impact on society is huge. Because without that money, you know, what would that money go towards if Scientology paying it and paying that tax? That could help people with, you know, healthcare or whatever else, you know, taxes go towards. the fact that they don't pay that now means that's less money for the wider population to benefit from, you know?
That's right.
Salty Beach Girl Laurie, thank you for the super chat. Did you ever dream your first year would include a wellness check from the police from a raid across the pond? Start strong, 1 year of many. No, I didn't. And that's another thing, actually. It's a really good point, is like, I was really surprised when that happened, because it shows how much support there is in this community. Like, I say it a lot, but I really do mean it. You know, you guys have been really helpful, and I know I can text you or call you at any moment of any time of any day. Like, there is so much, we're so close in this community, and people do really care about each other. And I think when I was in Scientology, what I was looking for was a purpose, right? Like, meaning in my life. Why am I here? What am I doing? Like, what's the purpose and the meaning of life? And I think I kind of found that here now in this community, which I never expected I would. You know, I thought I found it in Scientology, and turns out I didn't. It was all fake, and it was all wrong, and they weren't actually there to help me in any way, shape, or form. But now I'm out, you guys have helped give me meaning and inspired me to do what I'm doing now, and I feel like I have like worth and value, and I've got something that I'm working towards in my life, and I know what I'm doing, and I feel like there's a meaning behind my existence now, which I wasn't looking for when I started speaking out, but I didn't realize that was missing, and now I found it. So thank you guys.
Oh,
Well,
boy.
you're doing a great job,
I'm
bud.
gonna cry.
Absolutely. Fulfilling
I'm
those
sorry,
emotional
Gabe.
needs.
Yeah, emotional needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it's
It was.
about.
It's definitely a huge gap when you leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, the emptiness when you leave is phenomenal.
Oh.
It's probably one of the biggest things that I've had to overcome, is like, and like years and years and years.
Yeah.
Just waking up and like, what's the point?
Right.
You know, for the past 20 some odd years, I've been trying to clear the planet,
Of course.
the
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
And I believe that was the biggest purpose in the universe. And all of a sudden, all I'm doing is, you know, working a 9 to 5 or whatever, and then making sure I catch up on the latest Netflix shows, and, you know, and that's like, I think that's probably the hardest thing that I had to overcome. Alex, you wanted me to ask you some questions.
Yeah, go for it. I have loads starred, but we'll get through them
I know you
eventually.
do. I know
Yeah,
you do.
go
But
on.
this is, I'll ask you one question,
Sure.
just from me, from someone who's been in the recovery as well. What has been the most surprising thing, part of your life or personality, that you feel Scientology had a hold of, that you found out later after leaving? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a really tough question. Like, I think that what we're just talking about, that meaning and purpose, I think is probably the best way of answering it, because I didn't realize that was missing. Like, I was out, I was kicked out in 2014, but I was still doing extension courses and still considered myself a Scientologist till about 2016. But then it was 6 years until I first shared my story on Chris's channel a year ago today. I didn't realize that in that time there was such a big chunk of me missing, and I didn't realize it until recently. Of like, it's not like I was down in the dumps all the time and all of this, but like, I was just going around in life thinking, yeah, whatever, I'll just take each day as it comes, or, you know, whatever. There was nothing driving me of like, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm here, and just kind of waking up, going about my day and going to bed, and that was it. And I think that I didn't realize for so long that I didn't really have that sense of meaning and purpose. And the reason I didn't was because the last time I felt that was in Scientology, because I wanted to clear the planet. I'd signed my SEAL contract, and that was everything to me. It was who I was, it's why I was here, it's everything about me was tied to that, and I lost that. And I think the trauma brain just shut down, and therefore stopped looking for those answers, and was just like not confronting it and being like, cool, whatever, I'm just not even going to go there in my mind. Because in order to find a new purpose, you have to kind of review the trauma, and I just didn't want to do that. So it took that away from me without even realizing. And now with this new renewed, like, you know, mission to expose Scientology and share people's stories and all of this, like, part of me realized recently that, hold on, there's a whole chunk of me that has been missing for so long, and I didn't even realize because I was just so in a little hole trying not to think about it. And I'm still learning, I'm still going through that process. I'm far from recovered. It's a process, it's a journey, but I've now realized that that was missing, and I'm learning to kind of find that again now. Does that make sense?
Excellent.
That's amazing.
Perfect sense.
Yeah. Diana O, thank you for the super chat. Let me get you a coffee. This could go this could be a long war. That's very true. It's a long journey, and it's something that I'm only just beginning, and I'm glad to have you guys along the way with me.
Absolutely.
One Love has a question for Alex and Jeff. How do you think being at the protest affected you the most? Jeff, how would you answer that?
Probably the most prolific thing for myself as far as like personality change is no longer being afraid of confronting Scientology or Scientologists. Like it really was the Sunday. The Sunday was the big day for me when we had OSA personnel actively blocking us, recording us, the ninja guy following us around in the dark for some reason, not even doing anything. The realization that there was nothing they could do to me. They had zero power, and therefore I had the power over myself and my actions and my thoughts and everything. I think that was the biggest thing that was like that changed for me, I suppose.
Yeah, I think similar for me is like that was the first time I'd come face to face with current Scientologists. Like I'd had conversations with people and stuff, and I was still friendly with a lot of them, but the first time I was actually face to face with them on the other side. Like I am very clearly against Scientology now. I was holding a sign, with a very clear message, and I was shouting and screaming, to get my message heard to these people, watching the Qual building opening. And that was a really pivotal moment for me. Is like I didn't realize I'd have so much emotion at that point in time of like, well, hold on, what just happened? Like I'm here, actually, they're pushing me into a road with moving traffic and calling me this and that, and like very clearly trying to destroy my life, physically move me off the property, attacking me and everyone else that was there, obviously. For me, I was like, wow, it was very cathartic of like, no, that's just going to make me scream louder and try harder to get my voice heard. And I didn't realize that I would feel like that. I just thought I'd go there, do a protest, say what I wanted to say and whatever, and it would be great and we'll get our voice heard. But no, I didn't realize I would emotionally feel so much in that moment, because not just for me, but I realized that we were a voice for other people, right? People like Liz Ferris, trying to find her dad, Bob, and, all the people currently in Scientology that don't have a voice, that couldn't be there with us protesting. We were representing them. We were being a voice for them. And that was really moving for me, of like, this is bigger than just my personal journey. This is important for other people, because how many lives has it destroyed? How many people are in Scientology right now and can't leave because their family are in or whatever, and they're totally out in their mind, but they don't want to be declared an SP because they don't want to lose their family or their children or whatever. Like they were there shouting with us, in a way, metaphorically, and that for me was really moving. I think
that's awesome. Yeah. And you did raise your voice.
I lost my voice. I
but you still used it. It was still there. Like that was amazing.
Can I just interject just one sec?
Yeah.
Something you said at the tail end of that speech, lovely speech.
Thank you.
Was that there are a lot of people, and even in Canada, it's starting to come out. I'm just starting here in my little neck of the woods, and the tragic stories of people who are still in and are basically, quote, under the radar, and they are terrified of making a move that might expose them. It's the living in fear is just like, this is why I'm doing this, because nobody should live like that. That is just like, it's not okay with me. It really isn't.
And being there in person as well is like inside of me, there was a thought of like, I am not scared of you anymore. I am not in fear. Like I am here, and you can push me into the road. You can say that. You can get up into my face. You know, you can dress like a ninja and film. It's like whatever. I am not. You do not scare me anymore. I am not afraid. You can do what you want to me. Bring it on. I don't care. I'm not scared, and I'm not backing down. Right, and that kind of fuel I didn't realize I had, you know, because there's one thing sitting here talking about Scientology on a channel and like, lovely, great, fine. But actually being there in person was like, no, I'm not scared. And it instantly took me back to times when I was on staff and I was like scared what would happen if my stats weren't up, if I didn't sell enough books, or, you know, if I did this or I did that. Like I was scared. I was afraid of like being called out for doing this or that, or having to do ethics conditions or whatever, like, and I was terrified. And in that moment of the protest, I was like, I'm not scared anymore. Like I have no fear. You can do nothing. I have nothing to hide. I am here and I'm not going to stop until you guys stop the abuse. Right? This is my mission and you don't scare me. There's nothing you can do that will silence me or intimidate me into silence.
And you know what's amazing is they realized that when we were there.
Yeah.
You could see it in their eyes. Like, I think they actually expected us just to walk away, you know, and I actually think that's kind of why they didn't really expect us to be there on Sunday.
Yeah.
That, oh, these guys will just give up. It's like, no, this isn't happening. And then we said, no, we're not moving. No, you're trespassing. No, we're not. There was nothing they could do, and they realized it.
Yeah. And I think they're probably realizing it even more now, because I said at the beginning that I'm just getting started and the protest was the beginning. I mean that. Like, I've been working solidly since the protest on other stuff behind the scenes to make them know that it's not like I just organized a protest and then you'll see me again next year. No, this is the beginning of trying to call them out for stuff, right? And I've sent so many Freedom of Information Act requests. I've sent so many emails, messages. I've been in back and forth communication with a number of people in the local area to like make Scientology know that no, I am here and I'm not just doing this one-off thing. I'm going to continually keep poking and until, not to get a reaction, but poking to get them to stop, you know. And I reckon they're probably reassessing at the moment. I think they underestimated what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, because there's so much that they probably didn't see coming, you know, things like the planning permission. I recently spoke to the council because the Quoll building, according to the planning documents, was 12,000 square feet, right? That's the size of the building. But they put in their press release about the IS event that it's 20,000 square feet. That's what David Miscavige said. So, of course, I wrote to the council and I said, well, they said it's 20,000 square foot, but it's meant to be 12,000. So can you double check? Can you go and measure the building to make sure that it is the size it's meant to be? Because I'm concerned. So now we're in a place where I'm going to get an email from the council that confirms either the building is bigger than they were supposed to build it, and therefore they'll be in planning permission trouble, or more likely, Scientology lied and said it's 20,000 when it's not. Either way, the council have to put a statement out that either says Scientology have done something wrong or they've lied. There's no other alternative. And it's just little things like that I'm working on now. It's like, look, the protest was the catalyst. It was the beginning, right, of this journey.
Just
So
being
annoying.
a thorn in their side, Alex. That's the important thing.
Excellent.
Exactly. Let's get through some more of these questions. In fact, heavy messed at work. Alex has been too busy to tell his own story because he's been so busy coordinating suppressive acts. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Well
I
done.
love it.
Alrighty, where's this one here? Matamir Dokugal, a year can change a lot if you use it right. Yeah, and I can't wait to see the next year that's coming, right? I'm only at the beginning. Who knows what's going to happen, right? One Love, how long do you think it will take Scientology to fall? This is a great question. What do you guys think?
Well, I think we should take it down country by country or continent by continent, starting with Canada. It's small.
So
It's small. It's so insignificant here.
Yeah, Canada would fall quickly. I personally don't think that Scientology itself will ever fall, and that's not our goal.
Right.
Our goal is to stop the abuses in the Church of Scientology as an organization. To answer that question, I think it's going to be a while because they are very stubborn and tenacious, and they have a lot of money sitting there that they can use to fight. But I think it's really important that every single person who can help and is able to puts their voice out there, because the more voices out there, the more people will relate to, and therefore more people will join in. Like,
Yeah.
while I don't necessarily think that it's like a community necessarily in the traditional definition of community, I think that we all have a common voice that needs to be focused in one direction and not being dispersed, to use a Scientology term, towards things that are not relevant to this specific fight, which is taking down Scientology and its abuses.
Yeah. I think Scientology is here to stay, whether we like it or not, in terms of the writings, the belief system. That's always going to be here. But that's fine. Like, people can read it, not read it, doesn't matter. But what matters is the abuse and the way that it affects people. And that's something that certainly can be stopped. And it's going to take time. If you look at it, Scientology lost their tax exemption in, what was it, like the 60s? And then it wasn't until the 90s that they got it back again. So for those like 30 years, they were fighting tooth and nail, every inch of their being, for that recognition. And if they were to lose their tax exemption tomorrow, they would just do the same. They'd continue fighting, and they have a lot of money in the bank. I think there's a long road ahead of us, but that doesn't mean it's not going to shrink and get smaller, and its influence will reduce. And I think that that's what's important, is like, realizing that there will come a breaking point where they will always be fighting, but they will become more and more insignificant as time goes on, because even if there's only 100 people left in the world that are Scientologists, they've still got $6 billion or $3 billion or whatever. They're still going to be fighting, but who cares? They're not going to do anything with 100 people. So I think it's that breaking point that we need to get to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I have a perspective. As far as Canada goes, if you get these organizations shut down somehow, that you're going to actually stop the abuses to a very good degree, in my opinion, because that's where a lot of the abuses are happening. They're happening in the orgs.
Yep.
Right. At least that's from my experience.
Well, if I might add, it's not a binary, right? It's not an on-off switch. It's not like Scientology's here and then suddenly they're gone. It's that there's a path of changing the abuses, and I think it's important to note with questions like this that there has been progress. Even over the last 10 years, there's been progress. In the last 20 years, there's certainly been progress, huge progress in terms of public awareness. Anonymous saw to that, and we've been following up on that ever since, right, from 2008. And the world is different now in its attitude towards Scientology than it was pre-2008. And that's a long time ago. But I'm telling you, it was really different. People used to think of it as a kind of a kooky, sort of weird, but not really anything more than weird. And they saw Tom Cruise jumping around and they thought he was, like a little weird. And then South Park, and that was a little weird. But what 2008 showed, what Anonymous blew up, what people have been trying to say and really blew up into the public sphere, was it's abusive. It's destructive. It hurts people. It hurts people permanently. It messes up their lives. And it messes up families and everything else that it touches. And that suddenly became a lot clearer. And ever since then, it's been a much different discussion about Scientology, and it's enabled us to be able to do SPTV and have video channels and stuff like that and have more reach and effect. And then that was followed up with the documentaries. And as a real world result of that, we have seen a lessening of their abortion policies, of their RPF program, of certain other abuses, of taking away people's passports. They used to just do that as a matter of course. Now we hear reports that they're not just doing that automatically. So changes do happen. Slow, incremental. Are we happy with all those changes? No, we're not done. But that's forward progress. And I think that it's important to note those pieces of progress, because they're not small things. Canceling the RPF was a really big deal. They still have all the tools. They still do all the crap, but it's not so systematized like that. And that's worth saying because,
Yeah.
you know, an RPF program it was awful. And now they're not doing that to people. So anyway,
I mean, I'm
it's,
sure they still are, just under a different banner or in a different way, right?
It's a
I'm
different
sure.
setup,
Yeah, it's a different setup. But
yeah. Oh, and the whole also. I mean, the whole doesn't exist like the whole did.
Yeah.
Because of all that exposure, right? It's not
Right.
that people aren't being abused, just not the same way and not as systemically. And so the more we keep doing this, the more they'll have to keep canceling their bullshit, right, so to speak. And that's all forward progress for us.
Right. It's all the pressure, more pressure.
Exactly.
And I think it's just from all angles now. I don't even think they can keep up with it, to be honest with you.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
Wiggly
Theta Nova
woo.
says here it's a version of the EPF now. That's called Cat B, Category B EPF, right? Different thing from the RPF, believe me, very different thing. I would do a year of Category B before I would go back to a day of the RPF. So
if you showed up in the CR, Chris, you'd be on it so fast. Anyway.
Oh, I know, right?
Wiggly woo, thank you for the super chat, Chris. Great to see you on SPTV. Happy anniversary, Alex, and congrats to all your efforts and accomplishments. Thank you. And actually, that links in. So there's a question Anhata put here. Hey, Anhata, she's a great supporter of mine. Question: what questions do you wish were asked in interviews for other creators? I think that's a really good question. It's hard to answer because everyone is at a different point in their recovery, and so the questions that they ask is different, right? And I think I want to draw that back to the first interview I did with you, Chris, a year ago today. The questions you asked were great because I had never spoken about my story before publicly, but the questions you would ask now would be very different because I'm at a different place and I can talk more about what I'm thinking and how I feel and all of this, which I couldn't have done back then. So the questions that other creators ask is completely varied according to who they're talking to, where they're at, and all of that. I think, would you guys I want to show a short clip just for memory's sake, very briefly. This is my interview with Chris. This is the first time I spoke out publicly about Scientology a year ago today. I'll just play a second of it because firstly, visually, you can see my setup's different. I know I'm wearing a hat now, but I have a much tidier shelf behind me. I have better lighting and a much better microphone. But I think it's interesting. Let's just watch a second of this.
I think that's why I kind of want to speak up as well. You know, my journey in Scientology was sort of 2011 to 2014-ish, give or take. So we're quite a few years on from that now, and I haven't actually really spoken about my story to many people anyway. Like, this is certainly the first time I've spoken about my story in any great detail with anybody. And so I think the reason I'm doing it is just because I think there's lots of stories and people talking about Scientology in the Sea Org in the States. And there's not so much about London and the UK Scientology side of things. There's bits and bobs, but there's not too much. And secondly, you know, the journey of someone who didn't grow up in Scientology, that joined and kind of got recruited into it. And yeah, that's one of the reasons I want to share this story, is because there's not too much content out there about the kind of regular average person that's just been sucked in and spat out.
Exactly. In fact, it's interesting because the very first interview I ever did.
You then go on to talk about the interview you did with someone from London and so on. But
Shane,
Shane Waitman, but I wanted to bring that up because that was one of the first things I said on a public video ever, and it's still true to this day. Like, we were talking about that earlier, how the more voices the better, and I thought back then just sharing my story would be helpful to other people, but now I'm like, no, I need to help other people share their stories too. And so a lot has changed, but also the sentiment hasn't, right?
Exactly.
This has really come full circle, eh? Look at Chris, you started it, then Alex made me do it. And somewhere just after that. So I did my interview before you, Jeff.
Yeah.
So awesome. I have to go, guys. I got to go edit some video and stuff. But thank you for inviting me. This was fun.
Thank you for showing up. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
Enjoy your time off, Chris.
Thank you,
Yes.
guys. Yeah, I'm flying out early tomorrow, so I've got a bunch of stuff to do tonight. So I'm out of here. But
No
bye,
problem.
guys.
Thank
Alex,
you, Chris.
Lots of love, Chris. Bye.
awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Chris. Bye.
All right,
Alrighty, so let's crack on with some more of these questions. Theta Novice, what was the thing that made you decide to speak out, or was it more than one thing? I think this links to what I was just saying, right? Is I was watching these videos and hearing other people's stories, and I thought, you know, I want to share my story because it might help people. But also, I don't know if you guys felt the same, but for me, it's not like I was on, well, there were periods of time when I was on the fence and thinking, should I go back or not? But at this point in time, a year ago today, I was like pretty sure that I didn't want to go back. But I knew what they were like. They're always going to try and convince me to come back. And there's always going to be that nagging thing. And in my mind, I was like, well, by speaking out, by sharing my story, I am firmly closing the door on any possibility of me going back, because that makes me a suppressive person. So how whatever I think, whatever I do, I now can't go back, even if I wanted to. So in a way, by speaking out, it closed that door for me of doubt and allowed me to then get a sense of closure and start thinking, right, great, now that is a definite, I can now move on. And I think that was a really big part for me in speaking out, was like allowing, like putting an end to it and allowing me to go on that recovery process.
Yeah.
What was it like for you guys? Did you experience that at all, or no?
I was already out for quite some time before I spoke out. It was a little bit different, but the first impulse when I got out was I wanted to fight back. I was very angry. I also wanted my money back, but I knew that taking them on by myself wasn't going to end well for me, probably, because they're a bottomless pit of money, right? So I just, and the other thing was, we were in a lot of debt. So it was kind of more of a survival thing. I had to work my ass off. I mean, I probably started working more than I was actually when I was in Scientology, just to pay off debt. But as things slowly started to peel away, and then I started watching Chris and then others, and then you came out as a class 5 staff member, that something clicked in my head and I went, I need to do this. There's nobody in Canada. Why isn't there anybody in Canada doing this? Does it have to be me? And that's sort of, that's how it went for me.
Yeah. Jeff, what do you think?
I mean, I was out for a solid 10 years before I spoke out. I left and I just wanted to be away from it. But I also kind of realized, because I would watch Chris every Sunday morning with his Q&A. I even had a question on once. I would watch stuff daily about Scientology and the abuses and stories. And then I think I realized earlier this year that I couldn't keep listening. I had to return the flow to use Scientology, like I kept bringing all this information in, but I was never really dealing with my own stuff. I find it very difficult to speak to someone who I don't really know, like a psychologist, and tell them a bunch of personal stuff and like really open up. But for some reason, I feel okay opening up on YouTube to a bunch of people who I don't even see in person. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I just needed to tell somebody, and I feel like by putting a story out there, it memorializes it so that it's there, and anybody who wants to listen to it can or can't. And if it speaks to them and helps them overcome something, then I think then it's just all worth it. So that's why I started to do it, and that's why I continue to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. the more people that do it, the better. And, you know, even if someone doesn't want to start their own channel and they just want to come on and share their story, like the evidence is there. You can see clearly, like Gabrielle just saying, just hearing a Class 5 staff member inspired her to speak out. And the same with you, Jeff. You know, like, this is the goal. The more people that, even if you just come on and do an interview with someone, like, you never know who's going to be helped by that. And that's the focus for me right now, is helping people and telling the truth and taking on this big, it's a kind of like David and Goliath, right? It's taking on this big giant of this church who has loads of money, and I'm not scared of them. Like, I'm taking them on, and that's because I'm fighting for what's right and trying to give a voice to the people that don't have it, and give them the opportunity to speak out and leave if they need to or want to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Danger Man 5, is Alex's mother a celebrity? No, she's a jazz singer. She is very well known in her industry. She's not a celebrity like Leah Remini level, but she is fairly well known. Yeah.
And she's so talented.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
Peace Dog, it sure is different. When we protested, we had to be extremely careful, and that's why we wore the masks. It was scary, man. And that's the thing, it is still scary. Like, they do come after you. And, you know, if you look at the tweets I get every single day from people, OSA operatives and so on, like, it's actually quite funny. They are trying so hard to discredit me and bully me into silence. And it's like, look, who cares? No one's listening to that, and I'm not letting it affect me. In fact, actually, I find it quite funny. Yesterday, one of these OSA Twitter accounts said that I have the IQ of a potato, which I thought was quite correct. I was like, a potato? What? Why specifically a potato? Like, why not a carrot or, you know, a Swede or a tomato? Like, why a potato specifically? I thought that was quite funny. But you can be sure as hell
you're thinking about it. So,
well, yeah, in a funny way, and you can be sure as hell there will be potato merch on its way.
Wonderful. Just on the point of protesting back in the day, like, I was on the other side of the glass when Anonymous was protesting in front of the Vancouver organization, and there were Scientologists, usually OTs, that were sent out to stand in front of the organization to sort of fend off that Theta. And it was just like so stupid. We were all hiding behind the curtains, you know, kind of thing. And it was like, I don't understand it. This was some of the, I guess, cognitive dissonance that was going on in my head. It's like, we're supposed to be, what is it?
Confront and shatter.
Confronting and shattering suppression. So closing the blinds was just like, but then now I look back on it, and they had like Lisa McPherson posters, they had Xenu, stuff like that. So, and I mean, I had no idea what that was. But also the other sneaky things that were going on was the OSA or DSA, the Department of Special Affairs, that's what they are in the Class 5 orgs, they would send people and follow these anonymous protesters individually, follow them all the way wherever they went. So it was kind of, you know, spooky, I would imagine, for some of these protesters to be followed and stuff. That was kind of not cool.
But I think the good thing is that they are shrinking, and they simply don't have the resources to do that anymore. You know, like, they've been following me. I've got PIs after me and so on. Like, that has happened, but nowhere near the level they used to do that. And there's no way they have the resource to do that for all of, not a single protester that was there this year has said to me anything about them being followed or seen any suspicious activity. 20 years ago, they would have followed every single person that was there and tried to find out everything they can about them. They just don't do that anymore. They have much bigger fish to fry, much more important, urgent things that are threatening their very existence. They don't have the manpower. It took them months to catch on to the fact that I'm speaking out, and months to then actually do anything about it. And it's only now I'm starting to see the real, true, fair game. You know, my website, ScientologyBusiness.com, there's been, I think, 25,000 attempts to hack into it in the last like 2 months. It's increasing. They're following me and all of this stuff. Like, it doesn't scare me, but it just goes to show that they don't come after you now unless you're really considered a threat. And I think that's actually empowering, because it means if you are on the edge and you're worried about speaking out, or you don't want to deal with the fair game, there's safety now in YouTube and in, you know, on blogs and websites that like that you can do that. You can be safe and speak out, and they're not going to come after you. It's very unlikely that you're considered a big threat just by sharing your story. And that empowerment wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the, you know, dozens and dozens of people that have taken on this fight for decades, right? You know, if you look at the history of Anonymous and everyone else, you know, Mike, Mark, Claire, Aaron, everyone else that has spoken out and taken on this fight since the 90s and the noughties, like their work has allowed us to do what we're doing now. And so there's a massive like debt of gratitude there for them and everybody else, you know, Tori Chrisman, you know, Tony Ortega, everybody, you know, that's done this before us. They've allowed us, they put in the foundations, right?
And the guy that really got it started was Jerry Armstrong. He was the one that found all that information, who I hope to have on my channel one day, actually.
That'll be great. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Data Novis, I have the IQ of an SP spud. That's funny. I like that. Alrighty, I'm going to start wrapping this up in a sec, because we've been on for an hour. Let's do this one last question. Kay Was, I think this is a question for me, but I think I want to throw it back at you guys as well. Question: what was the hardest thing you navigated this year and the happiest? I think for me, in my year of speaking out, the hardest thing I think was, and still is, the emotional side of it, like really looking at and confronting what happened and what has gone on and the trauma. And it's not easy, right? Because there are things like being locked in a room at London Oil. I've talked about that before, and I never considered that traumatic. And actually in the last year, looking at that and realizing, no, that was abuse. That's not a nice thing to do. And there is trauma attached to that. Really looking inwards and processing that is really hard. And add on top of that, hearing other people's trauma, that is difficult. You know, I love having people on my channel and getting them to share their stories of whatever happened to them. It's really important. And I try really hard to navigate the conversations with care and compassion, and in a way that other people can be helped by it. But that doesn't mean it's easy, right? You know, after I do a video with someone, if they've just told me a horrific story, it takes a toll on you. And like, I have to really like decompress and process that. And that's the hardest thing, is knowing how harmful this thing actually is to people's lives, and the real effect it has on people. And I think the happiest moment was, like I said earlier, just, you know, the sense of community and meeting people like you two, and helping you guys in your process, your journey of recovery and speaking out. Like that's what makes me happiest, is like helping foster this community. But what about you two? What Jeff, what was the hardest thing for you since speaking out the last couple of months?
I mean, I got to echo what you said. You know, I suffer severely with depression and various other issues, but having conversations with people who are damaged by Scientology, I honestly didn't think it was going to affect me that much, but holy crap, does it ever? And I'm saying this only because, just to communicate it, I don't want anyone to think that they shouldn't reach out to me. And I will 100% take care of myself. But that has been the most challenging thing, is to get off a phone call with somebody who reaches out, who is pouring their heart out to me. And I got to, keep my cool a little bit and be that person, be that shoulder for someone to lean on. But then afterwards, I'm just like, holy crap, you know, and I love it, but I don't love it at the same time. But I think it's a big responsibility, and like I said, I'll take care of myself, but it needs to be done. For the happiest, dude, I gotta be honest, it's seeing the smile on your face when I actually showed up at the airport. Because I'm pretty sure that a small part of you thought that I was just messing with you. Just a little
There
bit.
definitely was an element where I was like, is this just some big catfish? Like, is this guy just making me, like, he knows I'm at the airport now and he's saying he's like he's just getting his baggage and he's landed, but like,
Because
is
it was
he
like a
really gonna
45-minute
show
wait
up?
for the bags too. So
Oh shoot.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
would
that
say
was a
that was
highlight
great.
for me. Like, you know, you're the first ex-Scientologist, or one of the first ex-Scientologists I've met in person, right? Since leaving. You know, I've met Danielle and a couple of others, but like, and Kelly, but you were the first one I spent considerable time with in real life. And, you know, that bond that we have and that connection is lovely. And being able to go through that journey of protesting and going to St. Hill with you was definitely a highlight for sure. Gabrielle, what about you? What's been the hardest thing since speaking out, and also the happiest?
Probably the whole unraveling, again, sort of echoing what you guys have said, unraveling the trauma and realizing that how deep that trauma goes. And, you know, I mean, for me, it was 25 years of it, right? And I mean, I'm still having realizations about the trauma and how it affected me and how I react to and get so triggered by things. And it's also shedding a Scientology personality. It's not easy because it's embedded, you know, it's like it's part of you because you're so indoctrinated. So that's been really hard. And I mean, we've done some crazy things like moving across the country, and my husband had he survived pancreatic cancer. It's actually was just in late November was 2 years that he's been without cancer, pancreatic cancer, which is,
That's amazing.
yeah,
Congrats.
Great.
it's just like, yeah, I mean, I honestly believe everything happens for a reason. So we've really been tested. And so that's really been interesting. But the hard part, and I'm going to echo you guys again, is talking to people who have gone through incredible trauma. And it's really hard to listen to, but I feel it is my responsibility to listen to and to somehow help, because there isn't that much help out there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
people don't, there's no therapist in Canada that actually deals with trauma like this. And even if they did deal with trauma, they don't understand the Scientology stuff.
No.
Right? So being an ear for somebody is really super important. Like, you know, you were there for me, you know, Alex, and you know, Jeff and I talk a lot. If it wasn't for you guys, this would be really, really hard to do by yourself. So that's probably the happiest thing. It's like, I know I can like text Alex. He will get back to me. I know he will. And, you know, or pick up the phone and call Jeff and stuff. So I think, you know, that's probably the happiest part. I can talk to people who can really, really relate to me and really understand the shit we've gone through, because it wasn't fun at all. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're
Absolutely.
doing the same thing, right? So we can sort of bounce stuff off of each other. So it's a support system that has been missing for well, since I got out.
Yeah, 100%. Well, look, before we wrap up, how about we look at one final video just to see how far I've come in my channel since speaking out. This is the first video I ever uploaded on my YouTube account, and I thought it'd be quite fun just to watch. It's only a minute or so, but let's just compare. Funnily enough, I'm actually wearing the same hoodie I was wearing in that video, but let's just listen. I haven't actually watched this, so let's
Hello,
see.
welcome to my channel. I am just starting this, so please bear with me while I get some content uploaded up here and start sharing my story. Long story short, I was Director of Public Book Sales at the London Church of Scientology a few years ago. I was kicked out, rejoined, and then got kicked out again. And I've gone through quite a long journey of coming to terms with it, started speaking out, sharing my story, and this is where we're at. So, as I said, please bear with me as I start to get content up here and start to share stories. In the meantime, you can find out a bit more about who I am and what I've been up to and what I did in Scientology on Dazed But Not Confused, Doug Kramer's channel, and also on Chris Shelton's Sensibly Speaking podcast. I'm also going to be speaking very soon with Aaron Smith 11 on growing up in Scientology, so keep an eye out for that. And please feel free to subscribe, comment, all that sort of stuff, and hopefully see you guys. Cheers.
Cheers. It makes you giggle, doesn't it? You're so cute.
Hey, what happened?
I
How'd you
think-
get so handsome anyway? You still haven't answered that question for me.
Stop it. Stop it. Well, look, guys, thank you so much for joining me. And what a year it's been, and what a year we've got to come. There is so much in the works, and this community is really important. We're in this together. Like I said at the protest, we're united against Scientology. We don't all have to be best buddies, we don't have to be friends, but we're all on the same team. We're all trying to do the same thing. We are united, whether we like it or not. We're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to help people, and that's what's important, and that's what I'm focusing on with my channel, and will continue to do for the next year. And look, before we go, I'm going to leave everyone with one message, which I said in a stream fairly recently. And I think I'm going to end every stream with this because it's important. I am on war footing and I'm not fucking about.